Today, I'm going to teach you how to bake a loaf of bread using no yeast, no sourdough starter, and nothing from a store. It rises on bacteria you culture overnight from cornmeal and warm milk. And if you get the temperature right, you will pull a loaf out of your oven that tastes like nothing you have ever made. Stick with me because I'm going to walk you through every step. The culture, the dough, the bake, and the three things that kill most first attempts. And I am getting to the method in about 90 seconds. I have been making this for months. I will never go back to a starter. Here is why. The bread is called salt rising bread. It is American, Appalachian specifically, and it predates commercial yeast entirely. Settlers in the mountains were baking it in the early 1800s in places too remote to keep a sourdough starter alive through winter. They had no packets of yeast. What they had was cornmeal, milk, flour, and a warm spot near the hearth. From those four things, they produced a dense, fine-grained white loaf with a flavor people have argued about for 2 centuries. The name comes from the old practice of nestling the culture jar in a bed of warm salt overnight, not as an ingredient, but as a heat battery. Salt holds and radiates warmth steadily for hours. It was their slow cooker. You're going to solve the exact same temperature problem tonight with whatever you have at home. The leavening is a bacterium called Clostridium perfringens. That name sounds alarming. Certain strains are associated with food spoilage, but the strain cultured here produces enormous amounts of carbon dioxide as it ferments starch, and that gas lifts the loaf. The baking process kills every bacterium before the bread reaches your table. This method fed an entire mountain region for over a century. The finished loaf is fully safe, and the flavor, dense, fine-crumbed, tangy with a sharp, almost cheesy note, has a cult following that keeps specialty bakeries with 6-month waiting lists in business today. You will land hard on one side of this bread or the other. There is genuinely no middle ground. Start the night before. In a clean quart jar, combine 3 tablespoons of coarse stone-ground cornmeal, 1 cup of whole milk heated to 40 degrees Celsius, 1 tablespoon of sugar, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Use whole milk. The fat content stabilizes the colony and keeps competing microorganisms from gaining ground. Use stone-ground cornmeal, not the fine degerminated kind in most grocery stores. The milling process strips out most of what you are trying to culture. The sugar feeds the bacteria directly and jumpstarts fermentation. The small amount of salt discourages competing organisms without harming the strain you want. Stir everything together, cover loosely with a cloth, and now comes the one genuinely difficult part of this recipe. Holding that jar at 38 to 45 degrees Celsius for 6 to 12 hours through the night. Here is how you do that without buying anything. A turned-off oven with only the interior light on holds roughly 38 to 40 degrees in most kitchens. Test yours once with a thermometer before you rely on it. A small cooler packed with 3 or 4 jars of very warm water, the culture jar nestled among them, holds this window for hours with no electricity at all. A slow cooker on the lowest keep warm setting, the jar sitting in a shallow water bath with the lid slightly propped open works well, but measure your slow cooker first because some run hotter than the dial suggests. A food dehydrator set to 40 degrees is the single most reliable method in a home kitchen. Pick whichever you have. What does not work is estimating by feel and hoping. Take the actual reading before you go to sleep. By morning, the culture should be foamy on top with active bubbling and a sharp, pungent, cheesy smell. That smell is not spoilage. It is your leavening alive and working. It will be strong enough to hit you when you open the kitchen door. No foam after 12 hours means the temperature drifted. Do not try to rescue it. Pour it out, start over, and hold the heat more carefully. A working culture is unmistakable. A dead one is flat liquid with almost no smell. One thing to prepare for before you commit to the overnight. The fermentation aroma is intense, and some people find it alarming enough to abandon the whole project. Here is what happens. That smell disappears completely once the bread enters the oven. Around 20 minutes into the bake, the aroma shifts, and what fills the kitchen from that point is fresh, warm bread. Nothing like the overnight fermentation. If your house smells sharp and strange while this cultures, everything is working exactly as it should. The oven fixes it. Build the dough the same morning, while the culture is still at peak foam. Do not wait. A peaked culture begins to fall, and you want that activity going into the dough. Pour the entire foaming culture into a large mixing bowl. Add 1 cup of warm milk, 2 tablespoons of melted butter, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Then add all-purpose flour gradually. Start with 3 cups, then add more a few tablespoons at a time, until the dough comes together soft and just barely tacky. Stop the moment it holds together. If it feels too sticky to handle, dust your hands lightly rather than adding more flour. Too much flour stiffens the structure and fights the rise. Knead briefly, just until smooth. Overkneading tightens gluten against the carbon dioxide the bacteria are producing, and the loaf ends up dense in the wrong way. Shape the dough into a greased standard loaf pan. filling it roughly halfway up the sides. Cover it and return it to the same 40-degree environment for the second rise. This takes 2 to 4 hours and looks nothing like a yeast rise. You're not watching for a dramatic double. You want the dough to reach about 3/4 up the sides of the pan. Do not rush it by raising the heat. Temperature above 45 degrees does not speed a bacterial rise. It kills the bacteria and stops the rise entirely. Patience is the only thing that works here. Bake at 190 degrees Celsius, 375 Fahrenheit, for 35 to 40 minutes. The loaf is done when the crust is deep golden and the bottom sounds hollow when you knock it firmly. Tip it out of the pan to check. If it sounds dense, give it 5 more minutes directly on the oven rack without the pan. Once it passes, move it to a wire rack and leave it completely alone for a full hour before cutting. The interior crumb is still setting as it cools. Cut it warm and the center collapses into a dense, gummy mess. Wait the full hour. That is not flexible. Cooled completely, the crumb will be tight, smooth, and fine, almost cake-like, with no visible air holes. The flavor is sharp, tangy, and distinctly not like any yeast loaf. It keeps well wrapped at room temperature for 4 to 5 days and actually firms up slightly overnight, making it easier to slice cleanly on day 2. Slice it thick, toast it, butter it while the toast is still hot. The dense crumb crisps under heat in a way no open crumb bread does. And that toast is why people are still obsessed with this bread 200 years after commercial yeast should have ended it. 3 things kill most first attempts. Temperature that drifted out of the 38 to 45 range overnight, fine degerminated cornmeal instead of stone ground, cutting the loaf before it has fully cooled. Nail those 3 and the first loaf works. This bread costs almost nothing, uses nothing you do not already have, and keeps fresher longer than any yeast loaf because the dense crumb holds moisture. The bacteria that powered Appalachian kitchens for over a century are sitting right now in a bag of stone ground cornmeal in your pantry. All they need is a warm night and a few hours of patience. Thanks for watching. Share this one with whoever swears they have baked every kind of bread, and I will see you in the next one.